Well, good afternoon, everybody. Steve Burns here. It's an honor to be here in Maui. Not Maui, it's Honolulu. I'm going to Maui tomorrow, right? We just finished talking about Maui. Here at Honolulu. And at the Photocon 2019. This is my first time in Hawaii. And aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
And okay, so this presentation is being recorded, as I mentioned earlier. And right on my website, chromeillusion.com. Now, if you like, you can take your cell phones and take a picture of that, or you can write it down. And right on the front of the website, right down here in the bottom right-hand corner, you see Photocon 2019 video integration, which was yesterday's presentation, which is already live and ready to go. So if you missed yesterday's presentation, you can click on it right now with your cell phones or mobile devices and watch it. Today's is not hot linked yet, but it will be when I am currently recording it. So when you get home after class today, you have something to watch. Now, you don't have to take notes. Just sit back, relax, and watch. Why? Because I'm recording the class. Okay, welcome everybody. Come ahead and grab a seat at tons in the middle here. Now, once again, I'm Stephen Burns, and I'm a digital artist. And I'm going to share a little bit of my work with you guys. I'm also an author, and I deal with taking your photography to a whole nother level of creative expression. Today we're going to talk about mastering layers. I'm going to share with you a little bit of my work, and let's go to a gallery here. And what you're seeing is examples of my work utilizing Photoshop. Okay? And this is using layers and compositing techniques as well as digital painting techniques. Okay? So what you will learn today, the techniques that I use to create these examples are going to be very similar to what you're going to learn today. Now, the way that I teach is that you understand how and why Photoshop works. Learning tips and tricks, I don't care about teaching in that style, because you can get that anywhere on the internet. I need you to understand your tools so that you can work intuitively as an artist in any direction that you choose to go. Okay? So I need you to take this stuff and make it your own. Be your own person with it. And that's the way I'm going to kind of, conduct this presentation. And I'm going to go over here to Behance. Now, how many people have the Creative Cloud? Right? So if you have Photoshop, you have the Creative Cloud. So you all have a Behance account. That's basically your internet portfolio to the world. I'll show you some illustration work here, which is going to be a part of this presentation in terms of the workflow that I use to actually create these pieces. Okay? Let's go to this one here. All right, so none of these are real. They weren't a real photographic scene. I composited it, created it. Okay? Using layers. So we're going to talk about layers from more of an artistic point of view. If you have any questions, I would like you guys to stop me anytime and ask them. Just kind of shout it out, raise your hand, whatever, and just bring up your questions. Let's get a little bit of a dialogue going between myself and yourself. This is a combination of digital compositing and 3D. Photoshop is powerful when it comes to the use of layers. Okay? And today, we're going to create something from scratch right before your eyes. So you're going to help me create it as well. So on the front of my website, you're going to see, once again, and this is kind of an old version. I'm going to go ahead and refresh it. This is where your videos are going to go. So don't forget about that. Now, if you think that you might like to learn more about how to be artistic with Photoshop, I also teach 5-week classes. If you come over here to the workshops link, the third link from the left, and target it, target the hands-on classes, they're right there. Now these are 5-week classes. You don't have to be in San Diego with me. Some people will be. You'll have a headset. You'll be able to talk to me, I'll talk to you. We can see your screen and you can see my screen. So it's going to be like you're with me live and interactive from the comfort of your home. So keep that in mind. The beginning class is coming up. You click on it, it tells you the date. That's going to be the end of September. Okay, so go to the Eventbrite page. That will be, I believe this one is in September 24th. So check it out, and have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. But let's go into Photoshop and let's have some fun. All right, we're going to create something. This is what we're going to create. We're going to do that from scratch. All right, and we're going to use several images to accomplish this. But we're also going to start thinking like artists. It's not enough that you know how to use layers. You need to know how to apply the concept of perspective and lighting to make this scene appear as if it was shot with a single camera. The techniques that you're going to learn today are the same techniques if for some reason you want to take your single photograph and you want to represent it as a single photograph, you will still use these techniques. If you're not using them, and if you were in my class, I will be all over you. You're going to see why. All right. I'm working in Bridge. Some of you work in Lightroom. Same workflow. So let's take an image. Let's go grab this one right here. Now, several images, different types of lighting situations. Doesn't matter to me because I have techniques for altering that lighting situation so that it appears if it's a single lighting source being emanated within that scene. Let's go ahead and open this up, hit the Enter key on the keyboard, and go ahead and open. It brings it up into Adobe Camera Raw. Now, what I might like to do is do a quick little edit in Adobe Camera Raw, and that some of the lower values within this image is a little bit darker, so I'm going to go ahead and go to my shadows, and I've already brought them up a little bit, and I'm going to give it a little bit of clarity, mid-tone sharpness. I think that's good enough. And open the image. And we're going to use this one as a base image. Now, how many people here consider themselves beginning level in Photoshop? Raise your hands. Okay, that's about a quarter of the room. Oh, some more hands went up there. Okay, how many people consider themselves intermediate level? Raise your hands high. That's about a quarter of the room. Advanced. Okay, and those who have no knowledge at all about Photoshop. One. That means a whole bunch of people are lying, right? We're missing a lot of people in here. All right, I'm going to be showing you guys techniques from beginning, intermediate, and advanced. And I'll explain to you what they are, what level they are, and why we're using them. So I'm not going to lose you here. I'm recording, so don't write, just watch me once again. And I'm going to duplicate my layer. Anybody know the shortcut for duplicating a layer who works in Photoshop? That's right, Command or Control J. Let's go ahead and do it now. And I'm going to turn off the bottom layer because I don't want that interfering. Now, my goal here is to alter this landscape a little bit. I love this waterfall. I love the richness of the waterfall. I love just the dynamic, the motion feel coming out of here. Command or Control plus, Command or Control minus allows me to zoom in. I'm using my left hand for my shortcuts as if I'm working as a painter with a palette. My palette's in my left hand or my non-brush hand, and in my right hand is my Wacom pen stylus. I'm using a Wacom pen and tablet. I'm using the Mobile Studio Pro. It's a Windows 10 operating system where I can draw and paint right on the monitor. All right, if I want to fill the screen full frame with my object, Command or Control 0. Okay, so 2 fingers down on my screen, I'm going to drag it on over. So I want to work like I'm working on paper. Wacom is a Japanese company. Wa is harmony. Com is short for computer. Harmony with computer. Let's go ahead and edit this. I want to take out some of this background here. I'm going to do that with the use of a layer mask. My layer, Photoshop works in layers. Does anybody here not understand what layers are and what they're for? Raise your hand. Nobody's raising their hand. Okay, one person's raising. It's probably more people. They're not raising their hand. So, all right. So if you had, let's go back before the time of digital, right? And you had a award-winning photograph you're going to place on the front of Time magazine. Time magazine needs to airbrush their red border and then airbrush their logo on top of it. They can't do this onto your photograph because you as an artist consider this to be priceless. So what they'll do is they'll take a clear sheet of acetate, lay it on top of your photograph, airbrush the red border for the magazine, take another clear sheet of acetate, lay it on top of the border acetate, airbrush their logo, take a third sheet of acetate, and then that will be the text that's going to share what's going to be featured in that month's issue. In registration, they photograph it to make transparencies. From the transparencies, they make color separations. Those are layers. All right. How do we know we have a layer? Right here. I have a background layer. I have a layer 1. I can make a new layer, right? I can click this icon next to the garbage can here, right on the bottom of the layers panel, and that makes a brand new layer. If I turn off the eyeball on my background, this checker pattern denotes that it's a brand new layer with nothing in it. I can put something in it, but right now there's nothing in it. I don't need anything in it right now. So I'm going to hit the delete key on my keyboard to get rid of my layer. Let's turn my eyeball on next to my waterfall, and let's go edit the waterfall. I'm going to work like a painter. I'm going to be an artist. You're going to be more than a photographer. You're going to go beyond what your photograph or your camera has given you as a image, right? Ansel Adams shot his work. What he previsioned in the field is not what he ended up getting out of the dark room, because his heart and his mind and his spirit went into creating through post-processing techniques. The dark room. We are now in the 21st century utilizing the digital darkroom, utilizing layers. So I'm going to get a brush, hit the B key for brush on my keyboard. That activates my brush tool right here. Now, by default, I have a nice little circular brush tool where I can adjust the edges of my brush to be soft or hard. So anybody remember the shortcut for making your brush bigger and smaller? Right, bracket keys. Go to the right hand side of the P key on the keyboard. Bracket to the right makes it bigger, bracket to the left makes it smaller. What's the new way of making your brush bigger and smaller? That's right. So on the PC is hold down the Alt key and right click and drag left to right, gives you pixel or subpixel sizing capabilities. Down hard, up soft. If you're on a Macintosh, and this is one of the very few instances that the shortcuts are different, it is Control Option left click, drag left to right, up or down. Okay, so I want a different type of a brush. I want to do something kind of interesting. I don't want a soft edge looking edges on my mountains. I'm going to get ready to remove all this background, but I'm going to keep portions of the foreground here. I'm going to right click in my brush tool. I'm going to access my brush tool, B key, right click, come right down here and grab a brush, that one there, and it looks like that, right? Now I'm going to make it a little bigger, right? Looks like this. And with my Wacom stylus pen, I can tilt it, right? I'm working like a painter now. So let's pull this over to the side, pull this down right over here, and 2 fingers pinch, bring it up a little bit. I should be able to zoom in. Well, let's give them a little problems here, that's all right. So we'll go use our standard keystrokes, going a little closer here. Now, this brush, this layer here is activated. I'm going to add third icon from the left, what's called a layer mask. Because white reveals your contents that's associated on your layer, but black will completely hide it. On my foreground color currently is white. That means having my brush activated, it's going to pull from the foreground color, that color there. What I want to do is I want to paint with black. So if I hit the X key on my keyboard to switch the foreground and background color, I want it black. If I start to paint, see, it edits the mask to hide the information on that layer. Does that make sense? Okay. If I want to view what I've done on the big screen here, hold the Alt or Option key, click on the mask, and it reveals the mask on the layer. Alt or Option key, click on the mask, it takes the mask, it reveals the effect. All right, let me go work here. So I'm going to take all this away, and I'm going to move this over here a little bit, take it away here, and I'm going to make my brush a little smaller, and I'm going to start to kind of etch away into that cliff. And I love this, this little jaggedy edges that this is providing, because the cliffs aren't going to be completely smooth. And I'm going to be adding more detail there anyway. So I'm going to take all this away. I'm working like a painter, and I'm going to just use that big ass brush and just clip all this away, keeping the rocks like so. Okay, so we're going to keep that there for now. All right, so next I'm going to bring in, and this is going to be our first layer here. Eventually we're going to start breaking this up into layer groups so I can keep organized. But for now, let's go ahead and keep working. Command or Control 0, pop into full view. Okay, so now, all right, I like where I'm going with this. I've got that background out of the way. I didn't think it was very appealing. So let's do something different. Let's change that background up a little bit. So how about if we go back to Bridge? Command or Control Shift and O is a shortcut for moving back and forth between Bridge and Photoshop. If I Command or Control Shift O again, it brings it back to Photoshop. Hit it again, and we're back to Bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find an image that has some information in it that I want to use. These rocks here. Let's go ahead and hit Enter, open it up. And I'm going to utilize this information, some of these rocks here, and I'm going to use a selection tool to target those rocks. The key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Selections and masks are exactly the same thing. Key to mastering Photoshop is mastering selections. Selections and masks are exactly the same thing. Let's go get a selection tool right over here. Quick Selection tool is a special tool that's actually going to read the shape and only select and stop at the edge of the shape. There. You're basically painting in a selection. That's good enough for me. Windows, Arrange, Tile Vertically will allow these to sit side by side so I can see them both at one time. The one tool that you're going to need to move your layers around and move your objects around on their layers is the Move tool. Anybody know the shortcut for the Move tool? V key. Or click that symbol right there on the toolbar. I hit the V key, the symbol is highlighted, click and hold, and drag it on over. Alright, let's go get another one. I'm going to come over to the other side and I'm going to grab this rock, utilizing the same tool. Target the same tool, and let's go ahead and zoom in closer so you can see what's going on. I'm going to put the layers panel right in the middle. Command D deselects the other one, or Command or Control D, and let's go select that rock right there. Okay, that's good enough. I might add a little more to the side here. And the bigger this brush is, the more it's going to select quickly. The smaller it is, the less it's going to select. All right, so, but I can keep adding to it as well, like so. V key for the Move tool, click and hold and drag it on over. Do I need this one anymore? No. Let's close it out to conserve on memory. Alright, so let's see what's happened. We brought those two on over. What did Photoshop do? It placed it in its own layer. Why is that important? Because now I can apply all of Photoshop's tools and commands independently to these objects independently from the entire scene. So if I grab this one here, let's go ahead and start creating. Let's take this one, and I'm going to put a sunset in the back where the light's going to be coming in between. So is the lighting on the rocks correct? No. So let's flip it. Command or Control T for free transform. Holding the Shift key down allows me to distort it, and I'll just flip it like this. All right? Let's bring it on over. Hit Enter. Let's go grab the other one. select the layer, Command or Control T, and flip it. Alright, now this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this one. Now here's a shortcut. Instead of going back and selecting the layer, hit Command or Control, hold it down, and click on the object, and it will jump to that layer. Alright, and if you can see it with the Control key held down, as I click on it or move close to it, sometimes you'll get the little red overlay, the little smart guides. So I want to grab that one, move it on over. Let's resize it. Let's make it a smart object. Right click, convert to smart object. Why is it I'm doing that? Now it becomes non-destructive. So I can resize this as many times as I want, and I will not lose any of the pixels. Command T, let's distort it, bring it up a little bit. I got to come back and flip that around actually. I think I want this one on this side. So I want to flip it around, get the lighting right on there, and pull it down, hold the shift key, stretch it down like so. Alright, space bar. That looks good. I might just stretch it out a little bit more, give myself some room to breathe. Okay, now it's done. So hit Enter key on the keyboard to commit my changes. I'm going to go grab the other one, Command or Control, click on it. It activates the layer automatically. Bring it on over. Make that a smart object. Right click Smart Object. That is now non-destructive. I will never lose those pixels if I continue to resize it up or down. Command or Control T, and I'm going to just bring it up higher, make it bigger, make it a little bigger. Okay, I might make it even bigger. Hold the Shift key will allow you to distort. Okay, we'll just kind of bring it down, shorten it up, and maybe bring it down closer to here. Okay, that works. I'll stretch it over it a little more. Okay. Alright, now what I need to do is I need to blend this in. I think what I'm going to do is grab a different type of a brush. Hit the B key. The B key is activated. Let's start with this one on the left hand side. With that layer targeted, we're going to add a layer mask. With that layer mask targeted, I have the old brush I was using before. So if I right click, I can go grab my circular soft brush, or that one, doesn't matter. And I can resize that accordingly. And I'm using pressure sensitivity for my Wacom pen. If I press down hard, it's going to give me more of an opaque effect. If I press down soft, it's going to be more transparent. So I'm editing the mask. So as I start to paint away, I'm starting to blend this in with the landscape back here. All right. Let's blend it, bring up some of that landscape right in there. Now, I'm looking at the rock, and I'm going to make some modifications to the rock in just a moment. But I can turn it off and on where you can see what's happening. I can also alter my brush back to my little texture brush there so that it reflects the actual landscape. Okay? I'm going to go to my brush command. Okay? And I'm going to start to kind of etch into it. And it's going to reflect the rocky landscape that we have here. Okay, that's good enough for that one. Let's save this file. Command Shift S, right? Because if it crashes, I'm going to be really mad. Right? So I'm going to go ahead and call this one Class Tutorial Number 2. Okay? And I'm saving it as a TIFF file with layers. Let's go ahead and grab this layer here, and let's modify it to integrate it into the landscape. Any questions so far? No? Why, am I that good? Yeah. Okay. All right, so we're going to bring this down, turn that back on. I'm going to utilize my brush, B for the brush, and I'm going to make sure I have a layer mask associated with it. I believe, make sure I'm in my brush. I'm not in my brush. I accidentally went to another tool, but I'm going to go to the brush here and make this larger. Okay, and I'm going to start to slowly etch in so that this becomes integrated with the waterfall. Is that making sense? All right, so everything's done in layers in such a way that I'm maintaining all of my pixel information as smart objects. Okay, let's bring this down a little bit. Okay, now, one thing I'm noticing is that the color of my landscape, or the bottom portion of the image, is slightly different from the color of this stone that I put on top. So I'm going to alter that. So if I target the stone here as a smart object, the beautiful thing about smart object layers is that if I add a curves to it to make adjustments, I can correct both my tonal as well as my color alterations to the image. So this rock up here needs to be more red. This is probably a little bit too cyanish. So I'm going to, and it also needs a little more contrast. So I'm going to add a little more contrast to that. There we go. Get it to blend in a little bit better. And now I'm going to add in a little more color. Not only can we alter the RGB composite, but the red, green, and blue separately. So if I target the red, if I pull the red medium up, it's going to add more red. If I pull it down, it's going to add its opposite, what? Cyan. So I want to add a little bit of red, not much, just a teeny bit. Add just a teeny bit like that. How does that look? That helps it blend in a little better. We might add a little more yellow to warm it up because we're going to have like a warm sunset coming through back there. So let's go to our blue. Going up makes it colder. Going below the medium line, it's going to give you a warm yellow. If I go stronger, it gives you a warm yellow. But I don't want that much yellow. Just a teeny bit of yellow just to warm it up. How does that look? We'll do the same thing to the other. Click OK. Target the other layer. I can use Command or Control M as a man, or you can go to your image adjustments and grab your curves. And we're going to do it again to that one. So give it a little more contrast adjustment. There we go. That starts to blend it in with the scene a lot better. And let's go open up our individual red, pull it up slightly. Yeah, that's nice. Go down to blue, pull out the blue to more of a yellow. All right, I'm just going to see how much of that one could take a little more yellow, but I don't want to go too much yellow. All right, we'll stick with that one. Now, let's go get our sunset. Let's bring that on in. Let's go back to bridge. And right up here, I have a pretty cool, let's see, do I have an extra? Oh, I don't have an, oh, I could use this original sunset. Or I can grab, I'll tell you what, we'll use this one. Open it up. Okay, there's my sunset. What do I do to make these, to put them side by side? Windows arrange tile vertically. Come over here, V key for the move tool, drag it on over. What do I do next? Command T, but what do we do to maintain a non-destructive workflow? Excellent. How do I do it? That's right. Right click, convert to smart object. Now we're ready to manipulate. Look at our layer positioning. What's going on here? Where do I want this? That's right. I want the second from the bottom, basically below all these other layers, below this layer here, right? So let's go grab the sunset, pull it on down, and let's start organizing this stuff a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to select everything above this. Everything above this represents all the layers used to make this foreground information. If I want to group them all together, what's the shortcut? That's right, Command or Control G. That groups them together. That way I can turn them all off and on individually, or I can actually navigate and move them and resize them as one whole piece. So once I can double click it, name it, then maybe I'll name it like just foreground. Okay, let's go to our sunset. It's independent. Let's move it around. Command or Control T. Bring it down. There it is. So I can resize it around as I so wish. Okay, we'll take it right about there for now. Now, let's Command S to save it. Let's go get our sci-fi city. Let's go back to our layers, and we're going to get this one right here. So, how is this one done? This is made up a composite of several different architectural images that I blended together utilizing layer blend mode. So I'm going to give you another example of it in just a moment. But I figured I would do this ahead of time just to save time. But I'm going to talk about how I created this. All right, let's go ahead and open that up. Windows arrange tile vertically. Let's go grab this one. Now take a look at this. This is already made up in several layers. Now what I could do is I could place these all in a layer group, right? Let's try this. I'm going to select them all. I'm going to duplicate them all by hitting Command or Control J. And I'm basically what I'm doing is I'm duplicating it so I don't screw up my original layers. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to commit all of these into a smart object. I'm going to grab this one, bring it on over. There it is. I don't need the other one. I'm going to close it out, save it. Yes, that's fine. And I'm going to go to my architecture and I'm going to place it right on top. Right there. That's going to go right in here somehow. Now, remember I committed all of those layers to smart object as a smart object? What if I want to go in here and actually edit it again? Excellent. So someone just mentioned we're going to double click it. So let me bring this one over to the side a little bit. And we're going to modify this file. Double click on the smart layer icon. It opens it up. Let's see them side by side. Windows arrange tile vertically. There. So if I come over here and decide, you know, I want to move some things around a little bit. Like maybe I want to take this layer and possibly move it right over here and let it blend in like so. Maybe I'll take this layer here. Maybe I want to actually use my move tool and do something a little different like that. Get it to blend like so. If I want to see more of the top, C key on the keyboard. Delete crop pixels to make sure it's turned off so it maintains all my pixel information so I can see the rest of those at the top there. And hit enter. And all I need to do, and I'll watch the image right over here, all I need to do is hit Command or Control S and it automatically changes it. Complete non-destructive way of working. Still no questions? I'm recording this anyway, so you don't have to ask questions. So let's go ahead and close this one out. And let's edit this more. Now, let's open up my foreground layer. And I'm thinking, you know, I want this behind these rocks, but I would like it to sit on top of the waterfall. Because I want to edit the bottom to make it look like it's going to be part of the waterfall. So here are my rocks, one there, and then below that is the waterfall. So I'm going to grab and reposition all of this. You can look at that blue little arrow, that blue little line, that's telling you where it's being repositioned, and release it, and you can see it jumped behind the rocks. Now let's edit this a little bit more. Command T for free transform. I can still use this to kind of mess around with it here. Put it right back up into there. Put it down to waterfall just a little bit because we're going to edit it because once we get the sunset behind there, the sunlight's behind it, which means the foreground's going to become real dark, right? And then we got to put lights in there. Right? Got to put lights in the windows. It's going to glow. All right. So that's come over to here. And let's go ahead and edit the bottom portion first. So what do we need to do? We want to actually selectively show and hide portions of the image. What do? Excellent. Layer mask. Target the layer mask. And I'm going to, this time, I'm going to B key for the brush, right click. This time I'm going to use a soft edge brush because the nature of the waterfall is going to be soft. Or, better yet, I believe I've made another brush. Oh, I didn't save it, but I'll make it for you right before your eyes. Fourth icon from the left on your options bar. We're going to make a haze and fog brush, which is also going to be the same brush I'm going to use to edit the bottom portions of my city. Because right now, if I get in close, this is just a hard edge sitting on top of a waterfall. That doesn't look real, does it? So, fourth icon from the left, options bar, grab it. By default, I'm in a brush tip shape, which allows me to adjust the distance of each stroke. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my shape dynamics. I'm going to tell it to alter the shape of each stroke over the length of the stroke. I'm going to go to scatter and tell it to scatter the stroke. All right, I'm going to tell it to add more count. I'm going to put a whole bunch in there. They're too far apart, so I'm going to go back to my brush tip shape and I'm going to pull it together so it starts to look like a little foggy kind of type of an effect. Next, I think I'll go back to the shape dynamics or the scatter dynamics and just pull the scatter a little closer together like that. Now we're getting kind of a foggy looking effect. Once I create a new brush, you have to save it. Top right corner, new brush preset. Make darn sure the only thing you have checked is the top one. Because if you don't, it's only going to restrict this brush to only the brush tool. I want this available for my eraser tool and my other painting tools. So I'm going to uncheck the bottom and only check this top. Target OK. Now we're ready to work. The brush is done. Now we're ready to work. So let's go ahead and make sure transfer, control pressure sensitivity through opacity and also flow. The same thing as opacity and flow here or up here. We're just going to tell Photoshop to use the pressure of the Wacom tablet. Once it's done, I'm going to save that brush again. New brush preset, and it's saved. Done. Where did it go? If we go to the third icon here, click on it. It's the very last one in the tool. Or you can right click and it's going to bring up that same dialog box. You don't have to go up and get it. Let's go create. All right, got a mask. We paint with what color? Black. Black conceals, white reveals. So let's come over here, gently start to bring it in, gently touch it, just be gentle. Let your subconscious tell you how you want this to go. I can make the brush smaller so I can press a little harder in some areas, starting gently at first, letting the waterfall come through around the buildings. Does that make sense? Pretty cool, huh? So the idea is to think like a painter. That's some of the water coming in around. And your photography will excel. Okay. There you go. That's much better. Now, lighting, we got to deal with lighting next, right? Let's go ahead, Command 0, Command S. We're making progress here. Lighting is not right because the lighting is coming from behind the building. The building's going to get darker, right? So let's go to the building layer. And we're going to give it a curves. So image adjustment curves. And maybe what we'll do is we'll just put a point in the middle and richen it and darken it down like so. Like that. How's that looking? Much better, right? The bottom portion of the photograph, you know something? It needs to be darker because it's going way down the bottom. It's got to be richer. So I'm going to just place a new layer right on the very top. I'm going to alter the layer blend mode of multiply. What multiply does is it takes any darker, medium gray or darker value and makes anything underneath it even darker, but allowing the color to come through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a standard brush, soft brush, make it bigger, and I'm going to be very gentle about painting in black. So X key, switch my foreground and background color. So my foreground color was white. And I'm going to gently start to place some of these areas in here. Very, very gentle. I'm going to make the brush smaller. Bring that down. This is all going to be in the shade. It's all going in the shade over here. Alright, so light settings, how's that looking now? Alright, so you're thinking some of your basic lighting techniques. Now, lighting's coming from the back there. I might want that light to come over a little bit more. It's not giving me a dynamic feel in terms of where the light source is coming from. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to go grab this background and hit the V key and pull it on over like so, like this. Okay. So that city is still looking a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit too much detail in here. So I'm going to go back. Let's go find the city layer, which is right there. My curves are still here. I can, these layers, these smart objects, now it's non-destructive. I can come back and add in a little more richer feel there. Yeah, I think that looks a little better. Now, shaded side is not going to have a lot of contrast, so I can flatten it out a little bit. Bring down the highlights, flatten it out a little bit, bring this down. Okay, how does that look? Much better? All right, now I'm going to click OK. So, let's add, I want this to look more like a sunset. So the top portion, I want to be more of an orangish red. The bottom portion is going to be the opposite of your light source. Light shadows have a color. When you take a picture of a shaded area, what color dominates in there? Blue. Why? It's the opposite of the light source. All right? Warmer light hits the subject. It blocks out the warm colors. The opposite shaded side is going to be the opposite of the color that is filtering out, blue. So let's go ahead and I'm going to click on the foreground. See, everything's all organized here. It's all my foreground is one in layer group. My background is going to be another layer group. I want to modify the background just a little bit because the sky isn't matching the contrast of my foreground information. So I'm going to target the sky, go ahead and give it also a little bit of a curve adjustment and probably increase that a little bit there. I don't want to do anything to the highlights because the highlights are pretty bright already. All right? I'm going to leave those alone. Let's see if we bring it down just slightly. There we go. Okay. Let's put in let's fake our little sunset effect here. All right. Go to the very top, brand new layer. The top I'm going to make warm. The bottom I'm going to make the opposite of blue. Let's go right up in here. Let's go grab something warm. So looking at this here, go something warm. And on the bottom layer, we're going to go something bluish. It's opposite. We're going to create a gradient. G for gradient, or it's going to be number 7 down on the left-hand side. Foreground to background. On my options bar, I'm going to tag this to make sure it's this first icon. Foreground to background. Where you start is your foreground, where you end is going to be your background. Hold the shift key to constrain this in one direction. Shift, click and drag to the bottom right there and release. We have a gradient. Let's change the layer blend mode. Maybe multiply. Maybe these areas are going to darken your image. This is going to make it brighter. Right? All those are some kind of cool little effects in there. And this area is going to add contrast and tint it. So let's see what happens if I just use color. I can use that as well. That may work just as well. But you can see on the bottom, the blue is kind of obstructing visually a little bit. So I think I'm going to go to the overlay. Now take your layer opacity down. Okay. Next, let's go put some lights in here. See, how are we doing on time? We have 15 minutes left?
Okay.
All right. Perfect timing. Let's get some lights. Let's save it. Let's go to bridge. Ooh, we got some lights right here. All right. So if I'm in bridge and I kind of pull bridge out of the way a little bit of a trick, I can go and drag this and it'll automatically become a smart object. Just from bridge. Okay. So that's one. I'm going to also bring in something else. Let's go back to bridge again. And I have a bunch of these in here I think I'm going to utilize. How about I grab this one right there and bring it on in. It makes that now a smart object. Okay, let's do one at a time. Let's alter the blend mode so that the darker values in here go transparent and the brighter values will stay. Which one of these do you think will work? Alright, so we go to multiply. Now the goal here is to keep the highlights. Well, let's check out overlay. Maybe lighten or screen. Color dodge, that might work. We can try screen. Let's try overlay. Let's kind of go down here and try. Now this one's interesting here. I've got a hard light. That could work. Possibly. But what that's doing is it's maintaining a lot of your black values. That's just increasing contrast. So if we come up here to our screen or a lighten, you can see the darker values go away. They go transparent. So I'm thinking color dodge. So if I take this, now here's the beauty of this. I want this stronger. So maybe if I duplicate the layer, Command J, there, it's stronger. Select the two layers together with the Shift key and right click, make those two a smart object. Oh, I'm going to have to go back and tell it to use my color dodge, was it? Okay. There it is. Command T, bring it down, all non-destructive. Time to zoom in close. Okay, get in close. Let's look at our building. And I'm thinking maybe placing these right outside here. Holding the Shift key down. This here. Bring it about. All right. So I'm looking at the angle of the architecture itself Actually, I like this right over here. Let's go ahead and just pull these on in. Shift, bring it on in. There we go. And bring this all the way up, just like so. In fact, I want to keep them small. This is matching perspective. Now, if I get in a little closer here, if I use my distort command, edit menu, transform, distort, I can also use a shortcut, command or control. That gives you distort as well, and start to change it to the perspective of the building. Is that making sense? I'm just playing and hit enter. Give this a layer mask. B for brush. Pull this brush down smaller. Paint with black and just edit out the areas you don't want to be affected. Don't want it coming on the side here. Now if I duplicate this again, Command J, and then take this, V, move it on up to edit these areas up in here. Now I want to match that perspective once again. Command T, oops, wrong one. Let's go ahead and escape on that one. I need to disconnect the mask from it. So I'm going to click the linking system off, target the actual layer, Command T, there we go. Alt Command, and we can kind of switch that so that's correct. Okay, now I'm going to fill this with black completely. Why? So Alt or Option, delete backspace, fills with black. Command or Control, backspace, fills with the background color. Foreground color, background color. Fill with the foreground color, it's black. Go to my brush, right? Now, if I get in close, I can paint in my windows. X for white, and I can start painting in the windows where I want them to go. If I go get the other windows here, real big ones, I think I'm going to want to modify this by giving this a curves, adjustment, give it a curves again, make these darker areas real dark, brighter areas real bright. Okay? So we're just using our heads now. Now that I have my values where I want them, all I need to do is tell it to use the same command I did before, a color dodge. Those are my windows. A quick little way of making windows here. Grab it down, bring it down. See? Bring it smaller. Holding Shift so we can get something a little different here. So maybe I'll put a few little extra windows right in here somewhere. All right? Hit the V key for the move tool. Alt will duplicate. And I'm just going to play around with this. Let's come back to that one. Let's go grab, actually let's use this one. Alt drag it, let's bring it over to here. And let's modify this a little bit better. And that looks like Command T, Control, and distort it a little bit. And maybe what I'll do is I'll make it larger like this. Just like that. So we'll go something like this. Alright, give that a mask. Go to your brush, B, and painting with black, hit the X key to switch to black. That might work actually. Just as it is, I might want to take this out here. Maybe this out here, that out there. Okay. Maybe take some of these out back here. But that could work. So I'm just making just some creative decisions where to place these things. Is that making sense? Okay. So and if I duplicate this one last time, I can alter the color. So that's it goes a little brighter, but I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, put it somewhere else, like so. But this time, go and alter the color to give it something different. So Command or Control U. I'm going to think about, get some differentiating, so it doesn't look like it's all the same image being used. It becomes obvious. It's a mask associated with it, so you can go to your brush, and of course you can brush away areas that you don't. Kind of takes away that repetitiveness there. Alright, so it's on the projector here, it's pretty bright. On my screen it looks much better. When we're done, I invite you to come and look at the screen. So now let's put in some light rays in here. We got about 10 minutes left? Excellent. So go ahead to Command S, save it. Let's bring it down a little bit. We're cropping off the top of the building here a bit. C key for the crop tool. And the beautiful thing about smart objects is it maintains its information. So as you can see, a little bit of the sky, we need to bring that up a little bit. So if we actually go close out, let's come over to here. Let's go take all the lights here. Select them all, Command or Control G. Now they're in their group. Double click it. So we're keeping everything organized. I want to call this one lighting. I think I spelled that right. Hard to see it on this laptop. And I can turn those off and on as one individual group. If I come down to the bottom, here is my background, Command and Control T. I'm going to Shift key, pull up. There we go. Now we also have our gradient tool, Command and Control T, and we will shift that as well on up. There. Okay. Command S, we're going to save it. Let's go make some lights here. Bring it down a little smaller. All right. How about if we start with something kind of a warmer yellow? Go closer to yellow. Much more toward a higher luminance. Started here. Okay. Now, let's grab that there. Fill with the foreground color. Oops, wrong layer. Brand new layer. Put this on top, by the way. Okay. Fill with the foreground color. Hit the M key again. Oops. I want to keep that as a rectangle, by the way. Make a shorter one. Fill with the foreground color. Medium size one. Fill with the foreground color. Something a little smaller. Fill with the foreground color. And a teeny one right over here. That teeny. Make it a little smaller. There we go. And fill with the foreground color. Take this and make it a smart object. Okay. Why? What the hell am I doing? What am I going to do here? No? What was that? Well, let's create the perspective. So the sunlight's coming from way in the back, is coming out forward. Command T, and I can, Command T again, and I can rotate this, right? The sunlight's coming from back here. Now, if I hold Command or Control, Alt or Option, Shift, all three modifiers together, if I pull this way, it moves to point in the opposite direction, which allows me to give me more of a perspective, kind of coming out this way. That making sense? So say the sunlight's going to be coming out kind of like so. It's going to be coming from a couple of different places here. So we'll start here. hit enter. Now from here, filter, blur, Gaussian blur. Okay. Right? Not too much of a Gaussian blur, just a little bit. Just a little bit in there. Okay. Give this, I'm going to keep that the way it is. I'm going to duplicate it, Command or Control J. Oops. Command or Control J. And this one, I think I'm going to come over here and give it like a color dodge, so that if I hit Command T and the distort command, I can play around with this in here to see what it does. And let's let it finish working. There, okay? So I'm going to turn this one off temporarily, take the layer opacity down. Let's do the same thing to this one. Take its layer opacity down. And I've got a color dodge in here. Let me see. I want to experiment with something. What if we go to screen on this one? Let's actually go to my move and play around. There we go. Kind of play around with this. Kind of play around with what the lighting's going to do. Give them both the mask. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two and put them into a group. Command or Control G. Okay, this is going to be my sun ray, and in that group, I want to create a mask for these. I can create a mask for the entire group. So if I target the layer mask, hit the B key for my brush, make it nice and big, and I can start playing around with this. Now I could do a gradient technique, but I like to use the brush because it gives me control over where this gradient is going to happen. All right, you see where we're going with this? Alright, so I want more reddishness coming out in those rays. Select it. Let's grab this one here. And you know what? I can probably just do a curves, couldn't I? Alright, so if I go to my image, adjustment, it's applying that curves as a smart filter. Red, I want red. See how much it's going to allow me. Not much. Let's see. Pull this out of here. And it's because of the adjustment layer. It's the screen blend mode. It's not going to give us a whole lot of choices. So let's go to here. I'm going to experiment with this one here. Now, this is in normal blend mode. It shouldn't be. This should actually be, in my opinion, probably more of a screen blend mode. That makes it a little better. It also has a mask on top of this. I can edit this mask if I want to bring those out a little bit more. X key, pull it, oops, wrong way. I want to go to white and pull those out a little bit. All right? Okay, let's see what it does now. Let's go to this one here. And in fact, let's go to human sat this time. All right, and let's see what it does. There we go. Okay. So I can go more. I can alter it to a little more red if I want to. I've got that choice. Okay. We turn this one on. That starts to blend a little bit, and of course we can do the same thing to that as well. Now, one last thing. This is going to create type of a lens effect, a lens flare. So we're going to grab one more layer. I'm going to alter that layer to a screen blend mode to make it bright. I'm going to use my Alt key, sample the color of that lighting back here. In fact, I think I'm going to make it a little more yellow just for the fun of it. Pull it up a little more, give it a little more yellow saturation. Pull the brush up a little bit and tap, boom, tap. There we go. So we're going to get a little bit of a lens flare coming up from back there. If I can change the color to more of a orangish, I can make another layer, change its blend mode to probably overlay, and see what effect I get here. There we go. There we go. So to kind of pull it out. But you're getting the idea. Now, given more time, you can kind of perfect this. Really make the sun rays come through quite nice. Or if I take that whole group and say, you know what? I'm tired of working with that whole damn group, you know. Right click, change that to a smart object. The whole group is going to go to a smart object now. And it's going to look like a single layer. Boom. All right? And, of course, I would modify this one more. Let's undo this one. I would take out those sun rays first. These areas for this little the lens flare. I'll take out the lens flare and put those on top. There. Okay? And then I'll probably go from here, right click, make that convert that to a smart object. There it is. Command T on that smart object. And I can also edit menu, transform, and warp. I can play around with this. Not too much of a warp. This light's not going to bend that much. Okay. You guys are getting the point? Are we bored? No? Good. That's it. I think that's all I have time for today. Now, just as a reminder, let's go ahead and this video is going to be up. So I've been recording this video. The whole presentation has been recorded. I'm going to my website here so I can remind you. Chromeillusion.com. It will be right here. Okay? So you didn't have to take notes because I've already recorded everything for you. Any questions?
I have one.
Yeah.
Instead of moving the layers down, could you just do move behind?
Well, moving the layers down is the same thing as moving behind.
Okay.
Yes. So yes, that's exactly what we did.
What size would that file be?
Okay, so the question is, what size would this file be? Let's let you go into Photoshop. Let's go find out image size. So this one is an 11 by 20 at 300 ppi. I kept it fairly small just to keep things fast and quick. Of course, what I do is I would feather this front section down quite a bit to really make it give it some realism. But I think you guys are getting the point. I want you to be able to see that you can create the perspective always. Keep your perspective going. Yes?
What's the difference from working in Photoshop versus the Bridge?
Okay, so the question is, what is the difference between Bridge and Photoshop? Bridge is a way of previewing all of your files on your system. Wherever your images sit, it will bring them up in a grid view. You can choose which one that you want to actually work with. Hit enter, and Bridge is connected to Photoshop, and that it will open all your files inside of Photoshop, or open all your files in their native format. So if a Word file is in here, you can see a Word file. Double click on Microsoft Word file, it'll open it up in Microsoft Word, and so forth with any other program formats. So it's a way of keeping organized. And you'll learn a lot of that aspects in the beginning class. Learning selections, compositing is going to first day of the beginning class. So the classes are 5 weeks long. Join me with your headset online. It's live and interactive. And you're going to access the workshops through the workshops link, third from the left, up here. beginning. If you think you're beyond beginning, you will come over to the intermediate class. This is the Wacom tablet class. So if you always wanted to know how to actually utilize the Wacom tablet, that is what this class is for. Okay? So beginning, we don't use the Wacom tablet in the beginning class. Because everybody taking a beginning class are people who have no knowledge of Photoshop. Once they're completed with that class, it segues into the intermediate. Right now, the beginning class is going. It's about to end this week. And then this starts up on the 24th, I think, of September. 5 weeks long, and every class is recorded. So you get the recording after each night so that you can use it to help you with your homework, which I'm going to give you every week. Yes?
Are you still using the intros for the intermediate?
That's right. For the intermediate class, I'm using the Intros Pro. So if we go over to, let's go ahead and take a look at it. Intros Pro. Okay. This is the Intros Pro. Oh, I'm all kicked offline already. I think they kicked me offline already.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi here does that.
Hey, does it do that? Okay. All right, so you want the Intros Pro. All right, so if we go back to let's go back to my site. This is a picture of it right here. All right, and then for those who feel like they're advanced, go for the advanced class. Death Valley, you're coming to my area on the Yosemite Master class. 3-4 day classes back to back with shooting, and you're getting Photoshop instruction together. Would love to have you. Yes.
When you're out photographing, are you thinking about creating assets for future compositing?
All right. So the question is, when I'm out actually photographing, am I always in my back of my mind? Am I always thinking about assets for future compositing? Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's how I'm able to. Oh, accept. It did kick me off. It's accepted. Oh, I'm gone. It literally kicked me out. So yeah, if you go to my website and take a look at the fine artwork that I have there in each of the galleries, that's what I'm using my photographic imagery to create. I'm going beyond the standard image. Next year, that's going to be the title of the class, Going Beyond the Image. And that's going to be something really cool. But you have to come back next year. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to Photocon for having me. And a big thanks to Adobe for also making this happen. Okay? And I look forward to seeing you next year. All right.
Have fun in Maui.
Absolutely. I'm going to have a great time in Maui. Thank you so much.